Welcome, everyone, back to School of Greatness podcast. Very excited about our guest today, the legend Steve Aoki. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me.
We're in your studio here in Los Angeles, and a very inspirational space with lots of great people here. And this is where a lot of it goes down in this studio, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You bring in all the artists, the singers, and come in here. And
absolutely. I mean, it's evolved over time. Like we took over this entire floor of this building in downtown LA 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. And before then, I was working in my house.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, generally speaking, I just, you can tune a room anywhere.
Yeah.
And you want to, like, for me, it's more about creative space. If I want to end up mixing or if I really need the acoustics tuned in to the point where it's really important, then I'll go to an actual studio and rent a studio. But if I want to be creative, I want to be in a comfortable space.
Yeah.
So no matter where I am, I'm going to build a room. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And so we took over this floor, and what you don't see, which you saw, which is they're like, 3/4 of this floor is the DIMMOC headquarters.
Yeah.
And then we built a wall. Before, when we took over this floor, there was no walls.
Right.
So I needed to have some privacy.
Sure.
So essentially, this is like my office.
Yeah.
This is where I work, and then these guys work at their desks and push other artists, and I'm pushing my music out of here. Actually, I lend this studio to a lot of artists as well.
Really?
From DIMMOC.
That's cool.
When I'm not around, I'm like, they can use, as long as they don't, destroy my speakers.
Right. Sure. Well, I was really inspired to learn more about you. I started hearing about you about 1.5 years, 2 years ago on social media. And then the more I heard about people posting about you and people that I have connected with, a guy sent me a message today, Johnny Cupcakes, who was like, Steve was a DJ for an opening party of mine like 11 years ago before anyone knew who he was.
I remember
Johnny
that.
Cupcakes somewhere.
Yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
More and more people have been telling me about you. And then I watched the documentary recently, and it was like blown away on how inspiring you are and all the things that you've overcome.
Thank you.
So it's amazing to hear more about your story, and I'm really glad you put the documentary out there. I recommend everyone go watch it on Netflix. I'm curious about, because I didn't know the family dynamics until the documentary. And I think it's fascinating about your father and everything that's happened. And I'm curious, what do you think makes you so driven to be at the top of everything that you're doing right now?
That changes over time. I guess the best way for me to sum it up is I'm a project-oriented person. And so whenever I attack something, I attack it, singularly, but also with multiple teams. So obviously I can't do all this I'm doing alone,
Right.
But I need to focus on one project at a time and see a beginning and an end. I think for the most part, for a long time I would do certain projects, but I would never finish them. I think that's the case for a lot of people. It's like, you have this drive to start something, and then you don't know how to end it. You don't know how to execute, and you're afraid of the product. You're afraid how you're going to be perceived, and it's about overcoming that fear too. It's like it's hard. I actually like to instill this execution part of starting and ending a project with my team. So, or with people that I love or that's around me. I remember, like, just recently, my little niece, she just turned 16, October 12th, was that today?
I think so. Today's 11th or 12th, I think.
Well, happy birthday, Natalie. Anyway, so like 3 weeks ago, my uncle.
It's the 11th.
Okay, so tomorrow will be her birthday. So 3 weeks ago, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, they just moved the whole family. I just bought my mom a house next to me, so that's been really great for me.
In Vegas or?
In Vegas,
yeah. That's cool.
And I just want to be closer to my family because I'm always traveling.
Yeah.
And she's willing to move, so I was just so happy. I was like, we found this house. It's right next door.
Amazing.
And my brother-in-law moved in with my niece, and my sister's moving there. So I'm just like so close, much closer to my family. Makes me happy. And my brother-in-law, he's a music guy. So he's always inspired when he comes in my studio and sees me working, or my studio's is epic
Yeah.
beyond epic. The one in Vegas. There's pictures online and stuff.
Sure.
If
Well,
you
they showed the
hashtag
video.
Neon Future Cave, you can see some pictures.
I think you posted on Instagram of you like jumping into a foam pit and everything like that.
Oh, that's not my studio.
That's your
my
house, right?
Yeah, that's my foam pit room.
It's crazy.
So, anyways, I'll get to. Anyway, so he's always like, I can't finish the song. I've never finished a song.
Your brother-in-law.
Yeah, and he's been working on music longer than me.
Mm.
He has a full little studio set up in the house. I get so excited. He has his MIDI keyboard out. He has some other synths out. He has guitar, and he works on Pro Tools. And I'm like, let me hear some stuff. He's like, I actually never finished a song. Wow. So I made a bet with him. This is part of something that I've been doing with my team called Aoki Bootcamp. And the Aoki Bootcamp is all about meeting your goals, and it's disciplinary. So if you meet your goal, whatever it might be, you actually have to pay money towards the charitable fund, and the charitable fund disperses it to different things that are of need. So in this case, I set a goal on him. I said, they started a group. Forgot the name of the group. Him and his daughter started a group, and they work on music together, but they've never actually finished a song. So I said, by October 12th, you have 3 weeks.
Wow.
I want you to make a bet with me that you're going to finish your very first song, and he actually did. So it took time. I would hammer and hammer and hammer and hammer,
right.
And he's like, I just can't. I'm just not in the space. Like what people will say, what I've said. I'm not in the space to do it. I'm sick. I'm tired. Like you make up these excuses so you don't actually do it. And I'm like, I give him some pointers, some hints to be able to truck through those boundaries, those like huge hurdles that you can't ever get through. You always stop there. Everyone always stops at the same place.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you get older, it's harder to jump the hurdle because you're more stubborn. You're like, I don't need to. I've already got my shit sorted.
Right.
So I kept on hammering. I'm like, where are you stuck on? What are the issues? Like, okay, so here's some pointers to get through that, whatever that might have been, And I would just keep hammering him, and he started hating me. I just saw in his face like, I can't believe I did this. But in this case, the penalty wasn't money, because I don't want to it's not like I want to take money away from him to go to charity, but the penalty was 3 months of working out every day.
He doesn't work out.
Well, I mean, it's a hardcore working out. It's like you have to do this regimen of working out, and if you miss it, you have to add on a week.
Wow.
So you can essentially be working out for the rest of your life if you don't work out three months straight.
Right.
And I'm very strict with these things. Like I'm very strict. Like I have to, I've already donated close to $40,000 to the charitable fund from lost bets.
Wow.
So I'm very, very strict with myself, and I try to keep that, with my team. And yeah, that's one way to like get through these hurdles is like is holding yourself and your team accountable. First of all, having a team community that believes in the same idea.
Right.
And a good way to start is WhatsApp groups. We have WhatsApp group, and on the workouts, besides this thing I did with my brother-in-law, everyone has to show their workouts every day of what we say we're going to do. And if we don't do it by midnight, we actually have to pay to the charitable fund.
We do something similar with our team too. Every week we give each other a challenge of like what we're going to commit to that week in terms of physical fitness.
Yeah.
And we have like a push-up challenge, like anytime push-ups.
Yeah, we
if you
do.
don't reach it, it's like 30 anytime push-ups.
125 a day.
Wow.
By midnight. And then you got the 1 hour rule from 12 to 1, where if whatever you have left over, you have to do 4 times the missed allotment. And then otherwise you have to pay. You have to donate immediately.
That's good. I like that.
Immediately.
What do you think it is? I mean, you said for a long time you weren't able to complete things, or you have a lot of unfinished projects in the past. What do you think it was a switch for you in terms of being able to start, execute, and finish things? And why are so many people in the music world that you're aware of who are unable to complete things? What is it that holds them back?
I think one thing I learned, especially when I was in high school, and I've said this before many times, is the hardcore music scene that I got introduced to, that became my life, that became my lifestyle. Every decision that I made was all based on the fundamentals of this hardcore scene. even the food I ate, I became vegetarian because that's what they did. And they were talking about animal rights, and I got into that.
Right.
And it was all really based on passion and community. It's like you have to be really into what you're saying and doing, and be educated on what you're saying and doing, and learn some instruments and play the music. And play the music of that culture. Essentially, you're an ambassador of the culture, and the way you get respect in that culture is by finishing your projects, whether it's a song, whether it's playing a show, whether it's putting on a show for other bands, so that scene can prosper and there's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So it's all about making the ecosystem of that community healthy. And the more you do that, the more that you're able to make it healthy, the more respect you get. So it's not about, I just walked in with like the shoes that no one else has or the bike that everybody wants. The more of that element that you bring to the table, the less cool you are.
Right.
Like you're cooler if you actually go, I'm vegetarian, I stopped wearing leather shoes. Oh shit, you made a stance. You made
Right.
something that's like a sacrifice. Or I'm putting on a show and all these bands are coming in. Wow, you put on the show. That's awesome. I started a band and I'm playing and I'm representing the sound. Or I made a zine. I interviewed 4 bands and I went to Kinko's and I made the zine. I'm passing them out to all the different people. It's almost like a religion in a way where you're spreading that goodwill. And it's not about a financial reward as well. It's like there is no financial reward in what I'm talking about here. It's all about believing in a culture and being rewarded by spreading that culture and building that healthy ecosystem of that culture.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, that culture doesn't have to be music. That culture could be in a book club,
Right.
or in a chess club, or in something that's like drives you. Because another thing is as well as I talk to some people, they're like, I don't know what my passions are. And I talked to Tom Bilyeu from Inside Quest about like, how do you find your passion? Like what gets you there? If you don't know what it is, and you just have to keep trying stuff and see what pulls you, what's pulling you to a certain place, and then meeting up with those people, that community, and finding out ways, because we all are smart, we all have ways, and we all have different ways of thinking about how to get more people involved in what we do.
Right.
So, the idea of being a pusher is a bad thing, but in this case, it's a good thing, So, and whenever I could push positive lifestyle and a positive, and health and well-being, I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
It's like Christmas when you actually give gifts. It feels much better than to receive.
Sure.
I prefer not to get any presents. I'd rather just give presents. You get more out of it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Like giving is actually the most selfish thing you can do. It's just because you feel so good. I'm curious, you talked about sacrifice for a moment. What's the biggest sacrifice you've had to make to get to where you're at?
Well, it's weird because when I think about the times when things weren't happening and I didn't really look at it as sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in retrospect, it was a sacrifice because you are sacrificing time and let's say you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
But it's not a sacrifice to you. It's
an investment.
Yeah, it's an investment, but you don't even think of it as an investment either. You think about it. It's just different. Like this, like when I'm going back to the hardcore community, it's like when we put on shows in our living room, we never took a dime. We spent all this time getting people to know about what we did, and once we got the ball rolling, we were on a roll, bringing all these artists in. We never took a dime from any shows. We always had people stay over, and I guess you could call it a sacrifice, but
Right.
it really wasn't. It was a real love for what we were doing.
Mm-hmm. When was that, about 10 years ago, or when
no,
was
that was like 15 years ago.
15 years ago. You were throwing these weekly parties in your apartment with a few other guys, right, that you lived with?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We had like about over 400 bands play, but it was some bands that became, bands that everyone knows, like Jimmy Eat World, or like a lot of bands, like a lot of hardcore bands. A lot of the bands that were willing to play in a living room.
How many people could you cram in there?
40 people.
40 people.
Yeah, but it felt like a lot more,
Right,
The
right.
energy was pretty wild.
Electric, yeah.
Yeah, but, so like for me as well, I'm DJing, obviously to a much larger audience, but I find a value in playing in front of 5 people. Because I used to love. I played in front of 5 people many times.
Yeah.
As a band.
Yeah.
You know, like it's because like sometimes we would do tour and we would play in houses, basements, a warehouse that was abandoned. You know, with a generator.
What was the biggest thing you learned about yourself playing in front of those 5, 10, 20 people rooms for years, I'm assuming, before anything ever picked up? What's the biggest lesson you learned about going through that process and that journey?
It's connection. It's like having a real connection with people and looking at them in the eye and actually, like, you know, communicating. I mean, we'd actually, after the shows, we'd hang out with them. Like those 5 people that came to the show, I'd want to know them. Be like, you came, you spent money, you drove all the way to my show. There's only 4 of you, 5 of you here, 10 of you here. Let's hang out. Let's do something. Let's I want to know about you and like what your scene's about. And then building a network and actually like treating them as peers, not as fans so much as peers, because I am a fan as well as them. I was those people when I was in teenager, and I'm still those people at other shows. I'm like in the crowd, and if I really am attracted to a message or a sound, I'm always a fan. That's another thing I've learned is that you can't forget about the fact that the reason why I do it is because I am a fan, and we're all at the same level. That 15-year-old kid that's like up front screaming or like bawling their eyes out or like that energy, I'm like looking at him like, I'm you. I was you. I still am you.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so happy that they don't give a fuck about anybody else and what they're thinking, because I was that kid in the front like screaming, wanting to sing along and be connected to the bands. And when the bands and artists connected with me, it changed my life, you know. So I always wanted to be that, and then remember like, hey, we are emotional beings, and we're here to express this connection. That's why like when people are like high on drugs and like completely aloof at my shows, I just feel like what a waste for them, and what a waste for myself, bringing them as production, bringing this time, and you know
they can't experience it fully.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'm just like they forget why they're even there. You know, it's like the people that are completely like you know, fixed on the show, they get the full experience. They get something that they can leave with that, you know, hopefully can inspire them the way it's inspired me.
When you were growing up, did you think you would be in this position? Did you visualize yourself in front of 10s, 20s, you know, 50,000 people at
Absolutely
a time?
not.
You didn't think about it?
There's no visualization of it's not like The Secret where I'm like, this will happen, I will make it happen. I never even imagined a scenario bigger than 10, 20, 30, 40
than
people.
your living room.
Yeah, it's also, I think there's nothing wrong with imagining and saying, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be a billionaire, I'm going to be influential in my field, I'm going to, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And like I agree whenever I read about different entrepreneurs and they talk about, you know, their tips is to like imagine that, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also a balance of being pragmatic as being realistic, and also not forgetting about what's in front of you. Because like the thing is that, you know, you could be thinking about this grand scale and forget that the 5 people that are in front of you are there because they love to be a part of that. And if you're not connected to them, they won't be as connected to you and why they came in the first place. So that's why there's times where I'll play a show and I feel the sense of disconnect, because there's a lot of people just kind of aloof, or not necessarily on drugs, but they're just not present. They're not present. And then I become not present. And then the people that are present, they don't become present. And all of a sudden, it's a lose-lose for everyone. So I can't look at these like, let's say you have a tremendous show and you're like, oh, that show was great. All shows aren't going to be great. And the shows that aren't great, you have to actually get more into the show. And that goes back to the very, very beginning of the question you asked. That's another thing that's important to remember is the beginning. And like those 5 people, those 10 people, or it could be those 5 or 10 people in the crowd while everyone, like there's like a, you know, where it's not such a great show. Right. Just focus on the people that care.
Yeah. It's funny. Whenever I do speeches and I feel disconnected, or like maybe people are yawning or they're on their phone.
Yeah.
And you're like, you get distracted. There's someone's walking in the background.
Yeah,
and in an auditorium, you can see a lot more of this than just like us jumping around.
Yeah.
It's very present because it's quiet.
Yeah.
And someone taught me, a great speaker taught me, focus on the one person who's looking at you and just hone in and
Exactly.
connect with that one human being. If it takes you 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just like look them in the eye and really connect with them, you'll bring everyone to that moment.
Yeah.
And you'll bring the whole room back to being present. So is that something you do too?
That's
when you're
exactly what I do.
Really?
I mean, the same, like a perfect analogy is I'm talking to you, we're connected, we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation will open up into all different avenues. But if instead I'm talking to a wall, you ask me a question, I'm talking to a wall, I'm not going to have the same kind of like choose your own adventure, like where we can go and, kind of go off in every direction.
Yeah.
I'll probably just answer questions in a very mundane, monotone, rudimentary level, and at the end of the day, whoever sees it is going to get that rudimentary level kind of like, oh, I didn't really learn that much, or that wasn't like, I'm tuned out,
Right. So when you're feeling disconnected or the show's a little off or whatever, your energy's off, is that what you'll do? When there's 50,000 people, you'll find the one person, two people, and you'll just give them that full attention? Or?
Yeah. And then, like, it all comes back. And, like, it's exactly what you say. Even if the rest of the people are just leaving, you just got to remember, like, like you can't be harsh on yourself and just focus on the people that care.
Yeah.
And then you have to constantly think back.
Can't please everyone, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to think back about the very beginning, where, hey man, I was happy playing in front of 10 people.
Yeah.
Like I got to remember why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for a paycheck. I'm doing this because I love this moment right here and like making this music and being able to connect people with my music.
What's been the most inspiring or impactful moment of your career for you? Is there a show or a moment?
It's just so many moments that all add up. It's hard. I mean, my first big moment was playing Coachella, which I've always talked about, 2007, because that opened me up to a stage of people that just weren't in my club, in the clubs I was playing in. Getting a Grammy nomination for my first album. That was, just being recognized by the Grammy committee and the music community, like, going, hey, we think that Steve Aoki's
credible and legit, and
up in the 5 best albums. I'm like,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, so because I don't like to. I don't. This is my own thing, but like I'm like almost like anti-secret in a way.
Sure.
Method where I don't want to have this expectation because I don't want to always feel so bad if it doesn't happen. Because since I got the Grammy nom, I was like, I want to win a Grammy now. But like it hasn't come, another nomination hasn't come again. And you just have to be like, it might not ever come and that's fine.
Yeah. Who was the most influential person in your life growing up?
Well, I'd say through and through my father, and I really got to tell that story in the documentary.
It's amazing, yeah.
And I never really publicly talked about that. That's why it was. That's why, like, partially for me, I just haven't seen the film again. Since I watched it.
You haven't seen the film?
No, I've seen it. Of course, I've seen the film, but I saw it. I watched it in full at the Tribeca Film Festival a long time ago. It was like probably in early August or something.
Oh.
Or July. June? Was it June? Whatever it was. It was in the summertime.
You haven't watched since?
No, I haven't. 'Cause I just it's hard for me to watch that. It's one thing to actually talk about process and talk and then get into personal stuff and then like bring yourself back into the moment, especially when you're around people that like feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And then it's another thing to watch yourself talk about it and then
How did you feel when you watched it at the festival?
A bit uncomfortable. But I was happy my mom was there.
Yeah.
She was sitting next to me, and at the end of the day, the way I see it is, I don't really want to think about this film is about me. I'm really like paving, paying a homage to my father and to my mom and to DJ AM and to certain people that really laid the groundwork for me to do what I did, or do what I'm doing. But I just I'd love that, and if I keep that in perspective, then I feel like this film has weight, and it's like people can watch it. But
Yeah.
if like, then again, like I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, like watch this movie about me. Like it sounds so lame, And when you see people talk about themselves like that, it's kind of you kind of want to make fun of them.
Sure. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned from your father then?
I mean, there's so many lessons, right? But this is like obviously his drive was insane.
Unbelievable.
And it came with a lot of issues, family issues,
Because he wasn't really there much, right?
Yeah, and he was not a great husband. He wasn't really great. Like, he was a good dad in the sense that he brought his kids together whenever he could. But his, like, he wasn't a liar. He's very honest. It's true. His number one was business. Number two was health. Number three is family. That's the way he is. That's not necessarily my code of honor.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my code of conduct.
What's your code?
There's no 1, 2, and 3. It's all like, family is really important to me. But obviously, I work a lot more than I see my family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so black and white. There's times when I'm with my family, all I want to do is support them. So when I see my mom, I'm trying to build a plan for her so that she remains healthy and happy and lives a long life of happiness and health. So we always think about what we can do, in the Aoki Bootcamp way, but not necessarily like making her pay, but like not necessarily making her do push-ups
now.
But like, I just want to take care of her. She took care of me.
Yeah. So your code's more of like an integrated, balanced approach is what you're saying. You may not spend as much time with family, but the time you're with them really is meaningful and it matters, and you're present during that time.
Yeah.
And there's probably ebbs and flows of work to family to health. And
I also think like when I'm not with the people I love, I want to kind of like analyze what they do with their day. Because if they're spending their time watching TV when they could be learning, when they could be doing something that's healthy for them and that's healthy and positive and integrates a sense of well-being and happiness that they don't know about before, that's what I want to push.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of what I'm saying about being a pusher. So what I do with my mom is like, I'm like, okay, so tell me your schedule of the day. You don't need to do this like TV stuff. Like, I'm getting her piano lessons. So then she's like using that part of her brain.
Yeah.
She loves piano. And making sure there's a personal trainer coming in to like make sure the blood's flowing in her body. She's moving. I'm getting like green cold pressed juices to her and making sure she's drinking at least 2 a day.
Yeah.
Making sure she's on her vitamin supplement.
Did you start a juice company, or you're a part owner, or
yeah, with my brother. Yeah.
That's cool.
Like those kinds of things are important. She's like, she started writing a book. I'm helping getting a book editor.
Nice.
So it's like, I think, then it's like I feel like I'm doing the best I can as a son, not just hanging out with her and like giving her a hug and giving her a kiss and having dinner and lunch. It's like, okay, let's like plan it out so that you're using your time effectively, efficiently, that makes you happy and healthy.
Right.
And that works muscles that you almost forget, because that's what happens as we get older. We're like, we're so good at this, we don't need to do this. When you're young, you can do it all, right? And you like you just sponge everything. And you get older, it's hard to sponge those things. So it's about challenging yourself and saying, hey, I didn't learn this language, but I have to make it a goal. And everyone says that. I've said that about learning languages myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to learn it next year. Next year, resolution.
Right.
But if you don't have some sort of like system set up to force you to learn it, and I talked to some people about that. It's like, it's bad. It's such a bad idea. This whole disciplinary thing, it just like puts like a bad taste in people's mouth. But I get it done this way, and I enjoy it. At the end of the day, as long as I am doing the work, then I will, whatever it might be, then I'll feel better about myself.
Yeah. What would you say is your vision for your career and your life?
Well, I mean, my core is always music. It's producing music and playing music. That's my core. It's like what I've built my whole life around.
Yeah.
In one form or fashion, from playing guitar and being in bands and being in the studio, and that sense to working right here in this studio, or like working on electronic music and playing it. That's like that thread will probably exist for a long time, because it's just always there. That passion and drive's always there. But the passion and drive are one and the same, and they always change. And I always follow where that goes, and it leads me into like all kinds of different places that leaves me in places of challenge, where I'm here to challenge myself. In the case of Johnny Cupcakes, where I met him like 11 years ago, you talked about, I threw myself into the fashion world by this opportunity that was given to me. It was, hey, we want you to DJ at this Magic trade show, and we can't afford to pay you, but we'll give you a booth, because essentially Magic the trade shows are real estate.
Yeah.
They're a real estate agent. They own this convention hall, and they're like, we're gonna rent out this, and it's like, you just got to be next to the right real estate.
Right.
So they're like, just give me a booth anywhere. So they give me like the back corner. Like, hey, we're not gonna sell anyways. We'll give it to Aoki.
Sure.
And I'm like, fuck, perfect. I need this as a deadline. In the project-oriented sense, I have this deadline. I got to come up with a bunch of T-shirts. Good thing is, I was screen printing shirts when I was 15 years old in my mom's house.
Wow.
In the closet, like with emulsion and just and printing on vintage shirts and selling them for $5.
Wow.
This is something I want to get into, and now I have a deadline, and now I have a project, and now I have a booth to be able to show these shirts. So I was just screening shirts, and then and I had like a few designs that I came up with some of my friends. Met with this guy. He's like, hey, I'll represent you. He was a friend. He didn't even have a showroom. Perfect. This is exactly the same model that I started when I was in bands. When I was in bands, I started with people that didn't know how to play instruments. I'm like, let's learn together.
Wow.
Even my manager, who manages me now, he wasn't a manager before. He's like, I'm like, you believe in me? Fuck it. Let's just go and hit the road, and we'll figure it out. We'll stumble, we'll fall, we'll pick each other up, and we'll keep going. And that's been the process for me, even with music production, electronic production. I met with another friend who he just learned Pro Tools, but he knew it enough where he could train me, and we worked together for 2 years before I started producing on my own.
Wow.
And so it's just like that kind of like attitude of, I just give me a deadline and I'll figure it out, and it might not be great, but I promise you I'll get it done. I just need to have, first of all, I need to have the passion and drive to get there. I have to want to be there, and I just need that deadline.
Yeah.
Give me the deadline. I want it. I love the deadlines.
Yeah.
So
how did that first trade show go then?
Pretty bad. pretty horrible.
Did you sell any shirts?
I don't know. Maybe like a couple stores picked them up, but
sure.
But it was it's just a learning curve, and 9 years later. I started a fashion company.
Yeah. I call that,
which is Dima Collection.
Yeah.
Time.
I call that practice reps.
Yeah.
Where you just like, you're not going to make any money. You're not going to.
You're going to lose money.
You're going to lose money.
Yeah.
But the things you learn, the knowledge is like getting a real life PhD in whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And you're just doing practice rep after practice rep until like the big game comes and you're ready.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like that, in a nutshell, I got into Magic. I was doing every year. I got into doing DJ for them. They gave me a booth. Great deal, because they'll sell me a booth or give me a booth that no one wants anyways. Sold a couple of T-shirts, learned the business. 2 years later, I owned my own trade show.
Wow.
Alongside Magic and Project and Pool. Pool sold to Avonstar. Avonstar is a company that owns Magic. And I teamed up with the younger brother of the woman that sold Pool. She couldn't do any trade shows, but he learned everything from her. So I teamed up with him, and he saw what my intent and my passion. And we started the trade show, and we owned it 50%.
Wow.
It's called United Trade Show.
Amazing.
And then we gather all, it's basically real estate, right? So you gather all your friends together, like, hey, we have a convention hall. We're at the same time as Magic, and we're the edgier trade show.
Right.
And we did that for a couple of years and I had a good time. I learned the ropes by throwing myself in the ring, throwing myself in the deep end and learning how to swim before I drown.
Right.
And that was an interesting round. And then like at the same time, I'm trying to pick up this fashion business, which is, it was cool, it was existing, but it wasn't doing any real business. And I met with partners that just came and failed, and like, they were interested and like weren't interested, and then over like 9 years, finally, I get to I find out like some people that were interested, and we're on 3 seasons deep in a full on
wow.
menswear collection of all kinds of really great garments and t-shirts and hoodies and pants and shorts and button downs.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Doing well in Japan.
It's paying off. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm curious now, where do you think you'd be right now if your father was there more, as more of an example and was around and spent a lot of time? If family was number one for him, and he wasn't as driven and achieved what he did, where do you think you'd be if you had a different example?
I don't know.
Do you think you'd still be driven to do what you're doing?
I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not entirely sure. It's such a tough one. Like I guess you could say that I probably wouldn't be. Maybe that's the case. Maybe like that absent father dynamic and me trying to prove to him was how I was able to get through like the tough period of time. And what if he did invest in me early on? Would have I failed? Maybe not. Maybe I would have found an artist and would be able to build it up at the time, because with at the period of time before I even was a DJ or an artist, it was all about Dimmock Records and how I can catapult this lifestyle brand into a real record business, like a music business. And we got there, but we might not have got there, but that has nothing to do with him if we got there.
Sure.
It had to do with me being connected to a scene that attracted certain bands, and those bands blew up, and we were able to represent those bands.
Right.
So that necessarily didn't have anything to do with him. If he funded those at me at the time for me to actually do something, I'm sure that I would have been able to hire employees and do this, and it would have been a shorter road to success. And I would have made more decisions that could have catapulted the business.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I got money and I don't know what to do with it. I'm just going to throw it all in there. And then all of a sudden business goes kerplunk and I'm like, okay, I'm out. Maybe that could have happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens if you're inexperienced, you're running a company, you have money, right? You're more likely to throw all the eggs in the basket and kerplunk your business instead of managing expectations, being realistic, because you don't have the budgets and you have to find a way through your relationships to get through instead of having a fund egg from your family.
Right.
So, but then again, there's a lot of trust fund kids that are successful.
Right.
So you just never know. You just never know. So it's interesting. It's I think it's, I'm proud of the way I did things. I'm proud of how it all came out to being. But it was years of like, holy shit, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to be in debt and no one's like, there's no out for me.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, I have to also recognize that I'm not going to be homeless. I'm going to, like, if at the end of the day, I might have a debt, but I could probably work, and I could probably go back to working at or not go back, but if he was still alive, I could probably work for him somehow.
Right.
He is a successful man. It's not like I'm from the streets. I'm like, oh shit, I'm out.
Right.
Like, I'm not. It's not real world.
Get a
scenarios.
job somewhere. Yeah.
It's like my life is not real world scenario. Where people don't have a safety net. Of course, I had a safety net. So I will never, not recognize that, and that's important too. So that maybe the safety net, subconsciously, even though I didn't actually get fronted the money, the fact that I had the safety net allowed me to take more risks.
Go all in.
Right.
Yeah.
Allowed me to go, look, I'm going to go for it. But at the end of the day, in the front of my head, I wasn't thinking about money anyways. I wasn't thinking about being rich. I don't want to have those fancy cars. I don't care. I'm happy to sleep on couches. I don't mind sitting in the middle seat in the back of the plane. Those things didn't matter to me. So at that time, my perspective wasn't about how do I make money for myself. It's more about just having an ecosystem that I can live in so I can do what I do. I mean, when I was graduating college, I was considering to stay in academia where your top end salary is probably 50 grand. And social work, with a women's studies degree and sociology,
It's not much.
Yeah, like you do it because you love to.
Right.
Like that's why I have so much respect for people in academia that are sitting in research labs or writing books, teaching about their specialized subjects, because they love to do what they do. They're not doing it to be rich. They're doing it because they want to better the world in their own way.
Sure. What would you say is your biggest fear right now?
Well, I mean, it's maybe staying relevant. Staying relevant is
Not staying relevant, you mean?
Yeah, not staying relevant, and just because I've been in this this kind of volatile climate of music, rushing as a trend and then disappearing, and it's almost like you want to be at the top of the trend, but then you don't, because when that trend goes, sometimes you go too. No matter how bad you've changed your sound or whatever you do. I've always been luckily like kind of in the middle. Like I've been at the top. Like Dimmock is not the coolest label. We're not the most profitable label, but we've survived through so many epochs of labels and trends, because we've kind of like, of course we want to be cool and relevant.
Yes.
Of course I want to be relevant and connect with people, but my music might not. Like, even if I try to make a change in my music that inspires me, it might not connect with someone else.
Yeah.
And it might throw people a curve, And I'm doing that for sure this year. I've been working with a lot more hip hop artists. I've even changed my sound a lot more than the typical EDM sound with a hip hop vocalist on there.
Sure.
Like I've like thrown out sometimes on tracks I have no drops. And in the EDM world, drop is what makes you EDM,
Right.
So, and I've also changed my kicks and my snares and like things of technical detail where it doesn't even, like, if you change those sounds, it doesn't even sound like an Aoki sound anymore from like someone that always listens to my music. And I'm willing to do that because I get excited. I'm like, cool, I got to change things up. So that can throw your relevance off, your relevance curve off. And
so what if you became irrelevant one day because you were passionate about what you were doing and executing the things you love, but the world didn't think it was as relevant or cool? How would that make you feel?
I just I'd have to really take a look deeper into why I'm doing things again. Going back to that one person that really cares in the front of the room.
Yeah.
And just know, like, they might change too. Like, as you change a topic, like, they might change too, and you have to be okay with that. And no, it's not about if you really love what you do, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it's like the balance for me. It's like I got so far to this point where I actually built a global audience.
Yes.
That's following my sound.
Massive audience, yep.
That I'm really proud of. And I really care so deeply about this work and my work I'm doing. I want to continue to grow it. So, of course, like if it goes down or, people aren't willing to follow my lead, I'm like, shit, am I doing the right thing?
Sure.
But then I have to think, like, I have to do what I love to do.
Yeah.
And also I remember having this talk with another DJ that's just been in the game. He's been like a godfather in a way for me, like a good friend of mine, Armand Van Helden. He's from New York, and he's just like, he's had so many incredible highs, and not necessarily lows, but highs and just going off the radar, and highs and going off the radar, and highs and going off the radar. And he's like, I've seen it so many times. I know I'm going to go back up on the high. I know I am. So I'm not worried when I'm off the radar. Not necessarily low. It's just off the radar.
Right.
And it's his choice to be off the radar. But he has such like this kind of cycle. It's like it's not even the 1% that could be Rihanna and Drake that's always on the high.
Right.
You're talking about the
Katy Perry,
0.0000001% that stays on the high the whole time.
Every year. Boom, boom,
yeah,
boom.
that stays here. Because they're the ones pushing the culture entirely. They're the ones that define what the culture is meant to be. Reality is, even if you're the 1% that actually can get to the high, realistically you will drop, and you have to be okay with that. And just keep working and keep making more music and remaining true to the people that are leading you and like connecting with them. Say, okay, come with me, guys. Let's go. We're gonna go.
Yeah.
We're gonna go on this trip. It might not be something you'd expect, but just come with me.
Trust me.
Yeah. Trust me. And some of you are not going to trust me once you hear it.
Right.
It's fine.
Check it out.
It's fine. But we're going to keep trucking. We're going to get to the next adventure, and I hope you guys continue because it's going to be different, and I'm going to try to keep surprising you.
Yeah, that's cool. What would you say is the thing you're most proud of that a lot of people don't know about you? Maybe that isn't out there in the public or isn't in the documentary, but something that you're really proud of. It could be like a small thing, but
I know how to do the most hygienic sneeze probably that you can do.
How do you do that?
So, like most people, when they sneeze, they don't want to spread their germs. They usually sneeze in their shirt or
they'll bring it underneath.
Yeah, or like like that. I used to do that all the time. Cover your mouth, obviously. You get spit all over your hand, like sometimes like a big fat loogie comes out.
Sure.
You're like, oh shit!
Snotty.
Like, you're like, oh. God.
So how do we do this?
So last year I had to I had vocal surgery.
Yes.
So I couldn't speak for a month, and part before the surgery I just was quiet, and if I'd had to cough or sneeze, I would cough and sneeze. After the surgery, if you coughed or sneezed, your vocal cords vibrate at such like a zzz, it's just so bad for your vocal cords. And I'm slicing one side of the vocal cord. So your vocal cord is like a V. So you slice one side, and it's just raw and red, and you just do not want it to touch because it's healing. And so if you sneeze, you're just destroying them. So I had to learn how to cough or sneeze without making a sound. And I learned this. It doesn't sound or look pleasant when I do it, but I do it kind of like when no one's looking at me.
Sure.
But you have to keep your mouth wide open. So you have to when
you're about to sneeze.
Yeah, I keep my mouth open like this, so my vocal cord's open, right? And then when I'm sneezing, I blow out like I'm blowing out like I just smoked a shitload of weed. I'm like like right before you cough, you're like, holy shit, like your lungs are like you're blowing your lungs out
while you're sneezing.
Yeah. And then you actually, what happens is like you don't make a sound because it's just a lot of air gushing out. Like what I just did, that sound that I just did is the most sound you make. And when I do that,
no saliva,
there's
no
no
spit.
vapor. There's no like vapor. So I could sneeze where trillions of bacteria aren't flying or in the air, and there's no vapor, and it just makes that sound. If everyone did this hygienic sneeze, I think like there wouldn't be as many colds flying around.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to be proud of.
Yeah.
How do you? We've got a few minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time. I want to ask a few last questions. How do you balance it all? Because in the documentary, you're like 3 cities a day. It seems like you're flying around. How do you balance it all? Do you batch travel? Do you? I don't know how you do it. I'm curious.
Well, here we are. We're in LA,
Mm-hmm.
and this happens because I have a team. I don't do it on my own. My publicist is right behind you.
Mm-hmm.
She handles all this
She's
stuff.
amazing.
She's
We
great.
connected before you got
She
here.
travels with me on all my publicity runs, and I can't do it without her. She's not there. I don't know if I can be in the room. And she's great.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I have teams that like help manage all the time,
Yeah.
that manage all this. It's time management and it's project-oriented management.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you have to focus on each thing and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you have the right team. So it's like team management and time management.
Yeah.
And you know, like when I'm creatively working in the studio, there's a lot more that goes in just finishing a song.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more. There's so many different steps that you have to do, and especially when you work with big artists.
Yeah.
You have to work with their management. You got to
The
work
whole
with
team.
their agents. You
Yeah.
got to work with their labels.
So much.
And then you got to work around the schedules, and you got to get all this paperwork signed off, and then after that you got to make these radio edits. You got to make this edit. You got to make this for movies. You got to do this. You know, it's like
It's a lot.
I can't do all that. What I could do is make the music.
Yeah.
You know, and I could work on the creative side, but like I need a whole team around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the fashion side, there's a whole different team.
Teams. Can't do it on your own.
Yeah, it's like you can't do it on your own, and it's like also letting go of power and control and being able to share that.
Yeah.
And share that with the right people. That's another thing too. I think I also read this before anything is you know, the hiring process is really important.
Yes.
And I trust people more than skill set. That's
Mm.
another thing too. It's like you trust someone, they'll grow with you.
Like your manager didn't know how to manage,
Both my managers.
but they
Both my managers were not managers before me.
right. But
I
they're
almost
great
preferred
people.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that didn't really work with my tour managers. Like I actually had to work with a guy that lived on the road.
Yeah, yeah.
That was like a road guy, because that's a different kind of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And after a few months, people were like, get me off the road. I can't handle this kind of schedule, especially my schedule. My schedule is like a anomalous schedule
Your machine.
of touring. You have to really be a road dog.
Yeah.
You have to be a road dog that loves to be on the road.
Right. What are the non-negotiables for you every single day that you must do in order for you to have a great day, whether it be health-wise, meditation, you know, working out? What are the things? Talking to your mom.
10 minutes of meditation. I try to do 15, but 10. I have my workout regimen. I do now we're doing like minimum like 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups. And if we don't do that, do some sort of like CrossFit workout.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are like things on the health side and balance. Trying to eat healthy, obviously. And always getting in some sort of, you know, it's like learning a language. You have to do it every day.
Yep.
With music production and working on music, I have to get a little bit in as much as possible.
Sure.
I don't do it every day, but because I really work, like it's different. Like when you're in the studio, I spend more time here than like at a show I'll play for 90 minutes. Here when I'm in the studio here, I'll be in here for like 9 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
And you know, and then you have to also learn to give up bad habits and discipline yourself that you got in those bad habits because of routine. So in the same sense, you get good habits from routine.
Yeah.
So we just try to like balance, and you know, bad habits for me is I used to drink all the time, so I just quit drinking.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't an AA move. It wasn't I wouldn't say I'm an addict like an Alcoholics Anonymous person, but because I'll have like a taste of alcohol every now and again to like cheers, celebrate.
Sure.
But for me, I just cutting it out entirely, not getting drunk, and being completely conscious of my decisions and everything around me. I like to remember things.
Yeah.
I like to be more engaged.
Sure. That's awesome. This is a question I ask at the end for all my guests. It's called the 3 truths. So if it's many, many years from now and it's your last day and you've achieved everything you've wanted to achieve, but for whatever reason, everything you've ever created has been erased and people don't have access to what you've created anymore.
Yeah.
And everyone's there by your side. It's a celebration, and they say, we love, here's a piece of paper and a pen. We want you to write down the 3 things you know to be true about everything you've experienced in life that you would pass on as lessons to us. What would you say, you know, off the cuff, because I didn't prep you for this question, are your 3 truths?
I didn't get prepped for any of the questions, but but maybe you sent it to my team, but I didn't look. Well, I mean, first of all, is to be happy, or just that term happiness, and how's that defined for your life? Because like, what makes you happy shouldn't be like if you're a kid, a toy truck, or for like when you're older, like a car. It's like people around you, like surround yourself with good people that, like whenever you do something good for someone, like you're happy. Just like what we're talking about before.
Right.
So like, always be on the pursuit of happiness.
Okay.
That's one. And two is, have a positive outlook on life. In general, just be a nice person. Have a positive outlook, be a nice person, and be happy.
Yeah.
Like you have those three things, because like it's easy to have the glass half empty rule and complain about everything, and there's always a problem, and for me, it's nothing worse than having that around me. I don't like that. I'd rather be around people who's like, okay, we can always find the good in everything, and of course, be realistic, so we know what the negatives are, so we can learn to stay away from them or learn to overcome them. But I feel like I live life for this pursuit of happiness, and generally just to be a good person to people, and the other one, to have a positive outlook on life.
I love it. Before I ask the final question, how can we support you? How can we support the biggest thing you're up to right now?
I'd say like the one thing that people can do that's timely is November 15th. I mean, this is happening locally, so this is locally in Las Vegas. We're having a fundraiser for my charitable fund.
Okay.
And all the money is going towards either brain research or brain-related diseases and organizations that focus on that. So we're doing our fundraising event in November 15th at Brooklyn Bowl.
Okay. And if people can't make it there, how can they support
they
online?
They could donate. They could donate money, or spread the word, or like retweet.
What's the link? Where's the site? Or
SteveAokiFund.com.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And you can buy some merch there too.
Awesome.
Like coffee mugs and T-shirts and stuff.
Cool.
Wear a Save the Brain T-shirt. We made a really cool shirt with like a brain, different colors. It says Save the Brain.
I love it.
It's like I don't really hear much about brain. I mean, of course, like giving money to cancer is a big deal, and I'm a big supporter of that. Especially my father, he passed away from cancer.
Yeah. And
it is like such a leading cause of death in all of the people that we love in life. But the brain is like one of those things. We all have it. If we don't get killed by cancer or some sort of heart-related disease, we're definitely gonna either go crazy, we're gonna lose our memory.
Yeah.
And and like this is how we are intelligent beings.
Yeah. 10 years ago, my dad got in a really traumatic car accident where another car came through the windshield and hit him in the head, and he's never been able to recover since. So I understand the challenges of the brain and what it does to someone if it's not fully functioning. So I'm going to make a $1,000 donation right after this.
Amazing.
And,
thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate that.
Of course. And
that's really cool.
We'll spread it out to everyone as well, and make sure we support. We'll have all your social media linked up and everything. Anything else you want to let us know to link up, we'll share it out to people.
Even on that note, there's more information on where the money's going towards, and all the organizations that we work with, and they're great organizations. And I met with already, like most of them, like the Ruvo Center for one, the Brain Health Center in Nevada. They're the leading brain organization center around the world.
Awesome.
And I'm really happy we're working with them.
That's cool.
And that's actually a privately held organization center that because it's privately held or privately funded, there's so much more activity and research and just great stuff happening there.
Yeah.
I just love working with people that are really pushing the envelope,
That's cool. Well, we'll make sure to support all we can. Before I ask the final question, I want to acknowledge you for a moment, Steve, for your incredible contribution to the world.
Thank you.
It's amazing to see what you've created, the passion you have, and the way you bring everyone together. Not only your audience and everyone that comes to your gigs, but the community inside the music industry. You're bringing a collection of so many different types of people together to work and collaborate on things. And for me, when I think about you, I think of family. I think of everything you create as a sense of bringing family and community together. So I want to acknowledge you for your incredible gift, your dedication, your commitment to pushing the envelope, even if it's scary for you and even if it may not be relevant, because I think that's the true sense of a leader.
Thank you.
So I want to acknowledge you for all that.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And the final question
is,
what's your definition of greatness?
I guess I don't know. I think you have to, whatever you do, you have to push yourself. That maybe there is maybe there is no plateau. I mean, I guess that's the thing, is there is no plateau. Like you have to just strive to do better than what you did before, and it's just a constant. It's a constant workout. It's a constant workout of all the different things that you're striving to do that's better for people around you, for everyone you touch, whether it's just your family, whether it's just your friends or a bigger community. And I think that that in itself is, once again, on that note, it's definitely more about what they say, it's the journey, not the destination. It's definitely more on that lane. Because as you strive and you learn, that is an adventure in itself.
Yeah. Steve, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate
it, man. Appreciate it. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking right here to subscribe, because each week we come out with awesome, epic, and inspiring interviews and messages and videos just for you. So click subscribe right here to get notified of new videos every week. Also, if you enjoyed this specific interview, we've got a lot of great interviews like this that are uplifting and inspiring. So click right here to watch the previous interviews, because the people I've had on are pretty cool and epic as well. So click here to watch previous interviews. Click here to subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you very soon.